Hi, welcome to another video in the video series by Horizant. In this video, we're going to be going through how to use the Building Operations Console. In this video, we're going to step you through the usage of that console. So we're assuming at this point in time that you've gone and you've turned on the Building Operations Console. So that is optional, something that your system administrator must do. And then you've also set up your SLAs. If you have not set up your SLAs or do not know how to, look for another video on how to set up SLAs as part of the video series. In this point in time, I'm going to be stepping through a very specific workflow, and that workflow is going to be the following. I've set up an SLA with the following parameters. Inside of here, we're going to take an example of maybe a broken door as an example. From that, it's going to follow a very particular workflow. Inside my workflow I have set up, you can see that that door issue is going to go for Alfred for approval, as well as then go off to the work team, so the work team can manage it at that point in time. You also see that Carlo is also the estimator and the scheduler, so I have turned that functionality on as well as he's also the verification person as well. So therefore, we can take a step through a lot of those screens that allows us to take a look at a lot of the screens inside the console. These are all optional steps, so your SLA can optionally turn these items on or off based on the workflow that you require back at your office. With that being said, I'm going to step you through inside the console. We're going to create a ticket as a door ticket. We're going to step it through and we'll take a look at the functionality of the new console and what you can do with it. So I'm going to flip over to my environment. In this example, for this video, I'm going to be using the version 22.1 release of ARCHIBUS to step you through that console. Alright, I am now over into my environment. As you can see, I'm running a 22 version of ARCHIBUS. We're going to initiate this process with actually creating the actual ticket itself. Now I'm going to log in as Linda Ford and have her create a door ticket. So Linda, let's put you in context here. Linda's found a broken door. She needs to put a building operations ticket inside of ARCHIBUS to start it out. So I'm going to log in as Ford here. Once I log into Ford and go over to the building operations section, I'm going to just report a problem at this point in time. Reporting a problem allows me to fill out the form, and as I fill out the form, that allows it to initiate these SLA and go through those steps and those processes. So here I'm logged in as Linda. Linda, it does backfill the form accordingly with Linda's location. Here you can leave in that location or be able to change it if you want to and continue to fill out the form accordingly. With the example that I have, we're just going to fill out the information down below and get the ticket initiated because we're really trying to get to the console itself. So as Linda comes down and fills out the form, let's make a example inside of here. It's going to be an interior problem, and it's going to be, let's say, a door was the example I gave earlier. And we're going to indicate that the door is broken. So I'm going to say door to my room is badly broken. Okay, so Linda's looking for a repair on her door in her office that she's got, or whatever location she's at. So as you can see inside of here, the workflow is what I had indicated in my PowerPoint. As you can see, we're going to require an approval, estimation, and schedule by Alfred inside of here, as well as then it'll go off to the BossMed work team. So that allows us to take a look at the console with Alfred and put it through its paces accordingly. So I'm going to submit that at this point in time. So I'm just going to hit the submit button and it creates my ticket for me. So as you can see, it creates that work request and now clears out the form for letting Linda fill out a new one. At this point in time, it's landed on Carlos' desk, so therefore I want to be able to log in as that other supervisor and take a look at that. So I'm going to log out as Ford and we're going to log in as Alfred Carlo. So I'm going to log in as Carlo. So this is simulating as if Carlo's logging into the software, Alfred is logging into the software and being able to look at the tickets in which he's received. So Linda could be your client, Alfred's the person receiving the ticket, and Alfred's going to be able to log in as the supervisor and open the building operations console. So as you can see, there's a new navigation entry inside the supervisor that you can open. Once you click on the building operations console, that loads the console itself. Now when you load the console, what is the console? What is it used for? What are we looking at this point in time? Console is used for looking at your building operation tickets inside the ARCHIBUS product. As you can see, there's a whole gamut of tickets showing up on the screen at the same time. Now, the type of tickets in which you're looking at are threefold. There's three types of tickets in which will appear inside the building operations console. One, tickets that you've been assigned to as part of the SLA process. So in this example, Carlo is the supervisor, so he's going to see any tickets that he needs to supervise. That's the first type of tickets that will appear inside the operations console. The second ones that will appear will be ones that you have submitted. So if Carlo goes and creates one himself, he will see his ticket inside the building operations console as well. So that's the second type of ticket. The third type of ticket in which you're going to see inside the console is going to be any that you're a substitute for. So Carlo could be substituting for another supervisor, and therefore Carlo could see those other supervisors at that point in time, their tickets inside of here. So those are the three type of tickets that are going to show up in the console that you're going to see for that example. Now, taking a look around the console, let's start at the top and work our way down. Starting at the very top, we have the report problem button. The idea with this is you're allowed to be able to go in and be able to create a brand new ticket. So it initiates that ticket process. So as I click on the report a problem button, it loads up that form that we were looking at a moment ago and allows Carlo to be able to create a new ticket. So if he goes off and he finds a different issue, he's on site and he finds another door at a different location, Carlo can go in and initiate that ticket as well. So that's what that will do. Again, it's the exact same form that we were looking at before. Fill it out, submit it, and it initiates that process and goes through the SLAs as part of that. So that's the report a problem button. Down below that, there's this nice filter console. So the filter inside of here allows you to filter through all your tickets. Now, Carlo could have a lot of tickets in which he manages. He may be managing a lot of buildings and therefore needs to find particular tickets with particular criteria. You can go in and be able to set up what that criteria is to find those tickets by using that filter. The way that the filter works is essentially you start filling out the lines inside of here and then be able to hit the filter button over to the right, and that'll apply that filter. So for example, if I'm looking for a particular building in a particular floor, I can put that in. So let's find an example inside of here. Maybe I'm looking for a particular building. They're all boss med buildings, or maybe a particular problem type. So I can see I've got a couple of temperature adjustments. So let's fill a problem type because it's probably going to be a good example that we can see a result on. So I'm going to click on the ... on problem type. It allows me to come up with a pull-up list. If I scroll down, we can look for the essentially the temperature adjustment. It happens to be at the bottom here. I can check mark it on and be able to add it in. Well, what you notice is that it's not a single selection list. I can actually come and be able to select many at the same time. So if I also want to see the security line items, I can come and be able to add those security line items as well. So this is one of the new multiple selection criterias of the filtered capability. So I'm going to leave those inside of here. So I'm looking for both the security and the temperature adjustments inside of here. I'm going to hit save selected at this point in time, and that will save it up to your filter. Now it doesn't automatically apply the filter down below because you may have to fill out 3 or 4 different values. So in order to apply it, there is a filter button, dark button inside of here. Click on that filter button and it applies the filter in which you had filled in across the top. So as you can see, I have now restricted it to temperature adjustments and just my security concepts and tickets that I'm looking at, and therefore restricts it for me. So great way in order to find tickets that you're looking for by filling out that filter. Now, with that being said, there are more fields inside the filter. How do you access them? There's a more button inside of here. If you click right to the right of that filter list, as you click on the more button, it expands out the filter so you can actually filter on quite a few pieces of information inside of here. So it hides them up front, but you can expand out your filter console. Inside of here, as you can see, maybe you know the room, maybe you know what craftsperson you're talking about or you're looking for, and you can put your criteria inside of here. Again, same sort of aspects. You fill it in, hit that filter button, and it applies that filter accordingly. If you want to hide it out of the way, there is that more button switched to a less button, and now you can click on the less button and it just slides it out of the way for you so you can look at your tickets. Now, if I want to get back to the full list, there is a clear button inside of here. As I click on the clear button, it immediately clears out my filter console and refreshes my view for me. So as you can see, it's a two-stepper when I click on that single button, and it does both at the same time for me. Other aspects that are available to me up across the top, there is a pull down inside of here with some very common filters in which you can be applied to this console. So here you can see I can take a look at maybe which ones have been escalated, or maybe I want to take a look at which ones are requiring approval, or maybe I just want to look at the 10 newest ones, and so on and so forth. So it just applies a restriction. You can make that selection as you need it. Moving along, there are some buttons that it does actually wrapped around because I've got a smaller screen inside of here. But there is a recent button. As you click on that recent button, it will keep track of what restrictions or what filters that you've already applied to that building operations consoles in the past. So if you find you're flipping from one restriction to another and going back and forth, you can come down and be able to select on that value, and as you select on that value, it'll apply that restriction and look for those tickets automatically. So you can always go back with the recent button to any previous restrictions you set in the filter and be able to set them accordingly. So I'm going to clear mine out, and hit that clear button, and then it clears it out. I'm going to look at my full list. After that, we've got a group by function. The group by function allows us to be able to regroup our tickets that we have listed. As you can see right now, it's grouped by status. Here I've got my requested and which ones are issued and so on and so forth. So these headers are essentially your groupings that you're looking at your tickets for. You may want to change that grouping. Maybe you're looking for a particular building or a particular problem that you're looking at. You can come down and be able to select from the list. So let's try an example here. I'm going to regroup it by problem type, for example. So maybe I want to look at how many electrical problems we have, or how many temperature adjustment problems we have. So here as I scroll down inside my list, I can see all my temperature tickets that I'm dealing with, and they're grouped under one subsection. So in case I need to react to those very quickly, I can go through them very quickly to make sure that they've all been taken care of. So if you have something like a high priority tickets that you need to take care of quickly, you can isolate them and make sure that they're going through the workflow very quickly. With that being said, there's a whole gamut of other ones in which you can regroup it if you want, but ARCHIBUS out of the box, when you first load the Building Operations Console, we'll group it by status, so that's the default value, and therefore you can always put it back accordingly. So that's essentially your filter console across the top, so you can do a fair bit. You can find the tickets in which you're looking for by using on it, and being able to interact with it. With that being said, we're going to move down into the actual tickets themselves and take a look down below. Now, as you can see, there's a whole gamut of tickets which are assigned to Carlo, and I can see the one that I've actually put in. So I can see the one that Linda put in, door to my room is badly broken, and there it lands inside of Carlos's desk. So therefore, that's the initiation of it. As I scroll down, you can see all my other statuses, so maybe my assigned to work orders, my issued in process, and my completed ones. So again, as a supervisor, I'm going to have a whole gamut of tickets in different statuses, and this is the way I can see them all on one screen. So that's a new feature of the console. Instead of jumping from view to view to view for each different status, you can see all your tickets all at once and then be able to react to them all on the same screen. So it's very nice to have that one screen sort of look at all your work that you're trying to manage. Now, if I want to be able to review some of these tickets, there's a couple different things that I can look for inside of here. First is actually the ticket itself. If I want to be able to look at the ticket itself, what is this door to my room is badly broken issue? I actually just have to click on the actual work request number. So here's an automated number. As I click on it, loads up a view for me, goes and fetches all the information concerning that ticket, and I can review it inside of this pop-up dialog box. Inside of here, I can see that it is a door type problem, any indication that the client is filled in. And then if I use these expanding out arrows, if I click on the actual triangle, it rolls out or flies out that subsection inside there, and now I can see more information. So here I can see, oh, it was Linda that requested it, and be able to take a look. Oh, the location is in BossMed, and then you can see where it is, and any of the other pertinent information. So that's the idea behind it. So if that's what I want to look at as for Carlo, to take a look at what the ticket is and then be able to react to it. So are we going to do it? Is that enough information? Do I need to figure out more information and be able to read that? There's a whole bunch of other subsections. We're not there yet, so I don't need to react to any of those or look at any of those at this point in time because there may be nothing that I need to add at that point in time. If you are dealing maybe with reference material, if you do add a piece of equipment, you can come and look at any referencing material for that piece of equipment that they've added in as part of that ticket. So I'm going to close this window, and I've essentially read the ticket or gone through each one of the different subsections in the ticket to review them at this point in time. So it sounds like it's going to be a go. Yeah, we can probably fix that problem. So I'm going to come over and be able to approve that. So again, I've added an approve button as an optional workflow inside of here. When you get back to your desk, you may not have that depending on what your SLA is set to. So I'm going to showcase this. Click on the approve button and comes up with the approve dialog box. Now in the example that I have added in my SLA, I've got an edit and approve step. So therefore, as Carlo is allowed to come in and be able to make a change to any of the information prior to approving it. So therefore, if they put it in correctly, it's not a door problem, it's something else, you can come and change any of the criteria that you want inside of here. So everything looks good inside of here. I'm not going to make any changes at this point in time. We're going to give it an approval process and we're good to go. You can come put some comments inside of there optionally if you want to. So therefore, in case you want to put some caveats in there and keep history on those caveats, you can add that to the comments inside there. There's also a couple of buttons down on the bottom. We've got a forward button inside of here. So if Carlo is not the person that's allowed to be able to approve this, maybe there's a criteria that you have that requires somebody else to approve it, you can forward it on to that other user inside the software by clicking on the forward button and passing it along. Caveat with that one is that user must have access to the Building Operations Console so they can actually go in and be able to get to the approval screen and be able to approve it. Approving it is essentially I'm going to pass it to the next step inside of here and pass it along. So we're going to do that button in a second. Rejecting it says we're not going to do this at this point in time. So therefore, I'm going to reject this ticket and say we're not doing it as part of that workflow. So at this point in time, I'm going to approve it. So I'm going to hit the approve button and approve that ticket. So therefore, it's a go. And as we are indicating inside of our SLA that we looked at in our PowerPoint, we were indicating that it requires an estimate and a schedule step. So as we have now approved it, you can now see that it's moved out of the requested state into the assigned to work order state. The examples that I have, we've essentially just done work requests in my Building Operations Console right now, and therefore it'll automatically skip the work order assignment process. So again, that's an optional step to turn on. I'm just trying to show an example of a quick, simple process. So here, for example, I've got a room, door to my room is badly broken, and I require an estimate. How do I know that? So here I see the ticket, it's moved down below into the next state, and therefore requires an estimate. And therefore, if there is a asterisk on the button, we call them actions inside the console, if there's an asterisk on the action, that means it's required. You must do that step. If there is no asterisk on it, it's an optional step, and you don't need to do it as part of that workflow. Again, that is a little bit different with the issue button because in order to move it to the next stage, you actually have to push that issue button in order to move it along. So, but you'll notice that's the difference between these two estimate buttons, is this one's required. You cannot skip it, therefore it does say that you cannot do the issue stage by indicating with a little icon indicating that you can't go to issue until you're done that previous step. So let's go take a look at the estimate step. I'm going to click on the estimate button, which allows me to come up and be able to estimate out this ticket. So inside of here, if you optionally need to estimate out of work, you can come inside of this dialog box and start adding those estimates in. So you've got a couple options. You've got the ability to add a trade, so I can come inside of here and add a trade. What trade do I need and how long do I need it for? Well, it's probably a door problem, so I may need a carpenter to come in. So I'm going to pick on my trade as a carpenter and then pick on how long is it going to take them to do the job. So it could be a mangled door, it could be a mangled frame. Let's give them 2 hours, maybe 3. Again, it's just an estimate. We're just trying to estimate out how long and what type of trade do I need for how long. So I'm going to save that just as an example. So again, you can add more than one trade if you want to. You can come in and add a second trade if you want to. If you need a multi-trades in order, it's a big job, and add a whole bunch of different trades with a whole bunch of different hours. It just helps on estimating out that job for you. Estimating and reserving parts inside of here. You can come inside of here and be able to add a part if you want to. So you get your parts list from the parts section of ARCHIBUS, which you can come up and be able to select that part. If you need a particular part, select it and indicate how many that you have. And what that will do is it'll reserve the part for this corresponding ticket and therefore not necessarily draw it down from inventory, but put it onto reserve, just indicating that you're going to use it for the ticket. In this example, I'm not going to add a part, but essentially if you're doing something like a HVAC unit and you need a couple of belts, you can go and be able to reserve those belts from the inventory or parts inventory. Other costs, if you're trying to lay out the cost analytics of it, if you know you're going to encounter some costs that are going to be over and above it, you can come inside of here and add those costs in. So I can hit the add button. And then I can come up and be able to add what type. So there's a resource type that we have. Click the ... and then be able to choose that. So you can have maybe an administration cost or another cost that you're going to have. What is that cost? Maybe it's a registry of the keys or something like that, or I need to make a correlation or an administration aspect. So maybe I need to re-register the keys, and there's a corresponding cost associated to that. Again, you can come up and say how much is it going to cost in order to re-register it. Maybe $200 or something like that. You can either do it on a units basis or a cost basis. So I'm going to save that at that point in time, and as you can see, it adds the line item in there for me. So what it will do at the end is summarize the estimated costs based on your labor analytics. So as I add a carpenter, he obviously has an a $44 per hour rate, and it figures that out for you, as well as adds up any of the other additional costs, whether you're consuming parts, what's the cost of the part, and any additional costs inside there. So it gives you a total cost of this ticket. Again, it's just an approximation for estimation, and then what you're going to do is once you're done estimating, you're going to hit the complete estimation button. So I'm going to complete my estimation at this point in time. And once I've completed it, you'll notice it puts that little check mark inside of there indicating that we're done that step, and therefore we can move on. Once I move on, you'll notice that now schedule is now required, and I still can't issue it until I schedule it. So you can see you're going to work your way across the different action buttons inside of here in order to step your process through. So let's continue on. So I'm going to schedule an item up. So this work ticket requires me to forcibly schedule it. So therefore I need to figure out what my resources are going to be in order to do the ticket. So let's click on that schedule button and schedule an item up. So as I can see, it comes in with my estimation. So here I said I already needed 2 carpenters. Again, there could be a time frame between the estimation and the actual scheduling. Maybe it's a couple of days in between, and you had forgotten how much you needed or how much time you had estimated out before. So it gives you a nice little reference. Now I can come in and be able to add my craftspersons or my tools. So I can come up here and hit the assign craftsperson task. So who is doing the work? So this is coming up and being able to assign my staff in order to do the work. So who's the craftsperson? Be able to choose that craftsperson with the ... lookup and be able to choose. So we know for inside my work team, it's going to be Glenda. Glenda's my carpenter, so I can come up and be able to assign her. It gives you the trade, so you can take a look. So you can see there's my carpenter 1 and Glenda is my carpenter. So I'm going to choose on her. I can pick as well when do I want her to do the work. So again, this is just an estimation to just communicate to Glenda saying, hey, I think I want you to do it on this day, and when do I want you to do it. So again, I can choose that time by using the calendar event. Hit my calendar button, and I can say, you know what, I want you to do it on Monday, and I want you to do it at 11 o'clock. Actually, no, I'll say 9 a.m. right Monday morning, so that we can make sure that the door gets fixed. And then schedule hours. Again, it should take 2 hours based on my estimation from up above. Work type, it allows you lots of different options inside of here. You can start laying out, maybe you require different travel, maybe it's really remote and it takes you a while to get there and you want to separate your travel time from your actual work time. Again, choosing what type of action that you're doing. So I'm going to say work in this example. She's on site. She's going to just go off and do the work itself and be able to save at this point in time. So there we go. I save it. And what that does, adds in a line for me for that work to get done. Now, if, for example, if this was a more complicated job, you could come inside of here and add a second, third, or fourth craftsperson. So if it is a much more complex job, you can add more craftspeople to that corresponding ticket, and it does land on that person's desk when you go and issue that ticket. So therefore, it has that capability of many craftspeople to a single job to assign it. You can also do the same sort of thing for your tools. You can come inside if you're and assign a tool. So you can come up, be able to choose your tool that you want to. So in order to fix the door, maybe she requires a particular tool, maybe a drill or something like that. Maybe something more complex. If you're doing something maybe like a light bulb change in a gymnasium and you require some sort of cherry picker or something, and you want to be able to book the cherry picker for a period of time if you have a lot of craftspeople, you can go and do that. So I'm going to pick one here, drill, be able to choose that drill and be able to schedule it. So I'm going to assign it to Glenda on Monday morning, and she's going to grab it at 9 a.m. and she needs it for 2 hours. So again, you're going to be able to assign whatever tools that you want. Tools are completely optional. If you want to track your tools or not, I always think of tools as something much more complex, like a cherry picker or something that requires you to track your time against the usage of that corresponding tool. So that's the idea behind it. So I'm going to save it just as an example. Save there, and that's how you add it in. So you can come up and be able to resource it out this way by adding it in this view if you want to. I always like to put an optional workflow inside of here for a supervisor. Another item as a supervisor you're going to want to look at is the planning board. So inside the navigation, there is a planning board navigator which allows you to do the same resourcing tasks that I just did here and be able to resource out your craftspeople. Because the one thing I don't know right now is how busy is Glenda? Is that going to work on Monday morning, or has she got 10 other tickets she needs to do on Monday? That's where the planning board can help you out with that in that example. So I'm going to continue with this workflow and keep inside the Building Operations Console. So at this point in time, I can complete my scheduling. I've assigned it all up, and I've got it all scheduled out. If, for example, Carlo was not the person that was needed to schedule, maybe there's another resource that can do that, you may want to forward it on to that other resource for that scheduling process, and therefore, again, that other person that you're forwarding it on to must have access to the Building Operations Console in order to do that scheduling step. So keep that one in mind if you're going to forward it to another person. So I'm going to complete the scheduling at this point. Complete scheduling. And now I've gone and put the green check mark inside my scheduling task, and now it also removes the cross or the X on the issue button, the issue action button. And what that allows me to do is now be able to issue it at this point in time. So there's also a cancel button. You can also cancel the ticket at any point given time. So in case something comes up and we're actually not going to do it, you can always cancel it out as well. So it's all laid out. I've estimated it. I've scheduled it. So I'm just going to issue it at this point in time, saying that the work is ready to go, the ticket's ready to go, and click on that issue button. It does prompt saying, "Are you sure?" And I'm going to say yes. And now it's been issued. So now you can see it moves out of the assigned to work order down into the issued and process. So here's my ticket right there, and it's now issued and process. So the logic with this is now it's going to land on Glenda's screen, and her Building Operations Console. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to sign out of Carlo and sign in as Glenda. So I'm going to do that. So let's sign out. Alright, we're going to sign in as Glenda. And his last name is Atkins. And there we go. So I've signed in as Glenda. She's the craftsperson, and that craftsperson has availability to the Building Operations Console. As I click on it, therefore, the tickets in which I need to do as a craftsperson shows up in my ticket list. So inside of here, there's a couple things to note. You'll notice that there is a whole bunch of assigned to work orders. One functionality that I did want to showcase inside this example is Glenda is on a work team, and what I've done is I've turned on the ability to have Glenda be able to self-assign herself to any tickets that are on
that work team. So that's where the self-assign button comes into play, is that she can self-assign herself. It is an optional step. You can turn it on or turn it off. If she's not allowed to, she won't see those tickets and she can't self-assign herself to it. So that's the idea behind it, and that's why you see that self-assign button. The issue and process. So here's our ticket that we're following through. So there it's landed on Glenda's desk, and I can see that. If Glenda wants to see the information, she can actually physically click on that and then be able to view any of the information inside of here. Now, if you look really closely, you'll notice that Glenda does have the capability of altering that problem type, as well as if you expand it to more information, she can also go in and edit the building, floor, room information, as well as any of the other criteria. This is a functionality in the new ARCHIBUS version which allows you to be able to alter any of the ticket aspects and then be able to pass it back through that SLA workflow to the new workflow. So if she comes in and finds out it's not actually a door problem, but it's a plumbing problem above the door, she can rechange the ticket to a different problem type, and it goes back up through the workflow if you want to. So there's some optional steps in which you can set in your SLAs in the new version that allows the craftsperson to change the ticket prior to it moving on. You can also turn that functionality off so that essentially Glenda cannot go in and make a change to the ticket and everything is locked down at that point in time. So that being said, there's a couple of other aspects that are new inside of here as well in this release. You'll notice that there is also a link new button inside of here. So this allows Glenda to come in. Maybe Glenda goes on site and she figures out that it requires a different problem. So maybe she's working on the door and it requires a plumbing problem across the top. She took the frame out and figures out there's a leaking pipe or something and she has to create another ticket. There's a link new button, and as I click on that link new button, comes up with the report a problem screen. So she can generate a brand new ticket right here from herself, and if she fills that out, I'm just going to close that right down here, it'll actually indicate that there is a related request down below, and it'll show that other ticket. So you can start linking tickets to each other if you want to, and the idea inside of there is that you cannot close this ticket until all those other related requests are actually closed out. So a nice corresponding aspect that it links tickets together, and that's what that link new button is used for. So with that being said, this is essentially Glenda looking at all of her information inside of here. She can scroll down, she can see any reference material that she needs to deal with. Again, this is a new aspect that allows you to look at any material in which is associated to it via the documents or document management process and be able to take a look at that. Glenda can also see the history inside of the ticket. She can expand it out. Gives it a full history now of where that ticket's been, who's approved it, what states it's gone through, and who did that. It's very nice in that sort of aspect, so if she has to go back on something, she knows exactly who to talk to as part of that history. As she scrolls down, she can access all the other sections. So we've got the trade. So here's the estimated hours of how long that ticket's supposed to take from the estimation stage. Is there any associated parts in which she needs to get? Her craftsperson information. So here's her Glenda's information. When is she supposed to do the ticket? At what time? And how long is it supposed to take? Again, these are just rough numbers. You'll notice that Glenda will be able to put her actual hours as well as the actual day in which she did it. So it does separate out estimated versus actual. But again, she can see the reference information. Scrolling down, you can see any other tools and tool types that she needs. So here I need a drill in order to do that, and I can go and it's already been pre-booked. And I can also see any additional costs. So again, if she's going to incur more costs, she can come inside of here and add them herself. So that's the idea. She looks at the ticket, finds out the information, closes that ticket down, goes off, and does the job. So she's going off, she fixes the door. It's Monday at this point in time. She's done fixing the door, and she comes back and needs to update the ticket. So how does she update the ticket? Well, there's an update button over to the right-hand side. So if I come over and be able to click on that update button, instead of actually clicking on the ticket, I can now update the ticket itself. So the idea over here is she's going to go in and fill out a couple different pieces of information. So maybe she got on site and she needs to change the description. She can if she wants. Most importantly, she's going to say, how long did I actually do it? So she's going to expand out the craftsperson section, and be able to come and select her name. And when she selects her name, you'll notice that she'll be able to put in her actual hours. So maybe it only took her an hour and a half. She was very efficient about it. She started it at 9 a.m. So filling out the information inside of there. 9 a.m. There we go. And she did it on Monday, and it was Monday then. And she finished it Monday because it only took her an hour and a half, and therefore she finished it by 10:30. So she'll fill out her information. Yeah, it was work that she did, and be able to save it at that point in time. So she's going to come back, provide some feedback on actuals, so that in case you need to alter your estimates or help the supervisor with estimating of the next job, and fill that information in. So you can see it's all populated at that point in time. You'll also notice if I scroll down, there's other costs inside of here. If she incurs another cost, maybe a parking cost or something, and ordering another part, she can either deal with the parts aspects, come and add that part in if she has consumed another part, or add in another cost. Again, hitting these add buttons are the exact same screens that we were looking at before, and be able to add them in as well. So the idea is come in, be able to update that corresponding ticket with all the pieces that she's done. As well as if I scroll down, there's also an update work request down below. You can also indicate if there's equipment downtime, what was the metering reading at that point in time. So maybe they were up there working on a piece of equipment. What was the cause and what is the repair? So these are lookup lists. There's a ... associated to it. These are optional, not required to fill out. But they do help you in the long run, because if you know your causes, for example, maybe it was a vandalism problem and you're having a whole bunch of vandalism problems and you want to be able to report on that at the end of the month. So you want to be able to notify that. So you can have your craftsperson fill out the cause. So what is it? Well, it looked like this one was a vandalism. Somebody kicked the door open and really broke it good. As well as there's a repair type. What did I do to fix the door? So I can come in and be able to specify that. So I went and reinstalled a new door. So I put a new door in and specify that. These lookup lists are controlled by your organization. So you can come in and be able to alter those causes and those repair types. They are just lookup lists, and your business process owner can be able to alter them accordingly. Down below, we've got another section inside of here, Craftsperson's notes. If there's anything that you've essentially noticed as part of the job, or there's notes that you want to communicate back to the supervisor, or just keep history on the actual ticket itself, this is a great spot for it. The nice thing about this is between your supervisors and yourselves, as well as your history as part of that. So, so we ordered a new door, everything went well. So new door fit really well. No issues on the job. All right, so again, any communication that you have as part of that. Now, with that being said, the last step that you want to be able to do is control the status. So the status of the ticket is very important. As a craftsperson, you're going to want to keep that status up to date. So where is that located? There's a more information section up top in the ticket, and there's a status inside of there. So you'll come down here and be able to hit the issued and process pull down in the status and be able to dictate that. As you can see, you can put that status or a ticket on hold if you want to. So maybe you had to order some parts and you're waiting for that. Make sure you keep this up to date as much as you can as a craftsperson, because if the supervisor goes in and looks at the ticket, they can have access to the status list and be able to have a good communication back to the supervisor in order to see what's going on with that ticket. As well as use the actual, if you go, for example, on hold for parts, come down and be able to put some craftsperson's notes down below so you can communicate back to your supervisor in case the supervisor wants to see what's going on with the ticket. So that's a good item to note, is you've got some on hold criteria. So we're going to say we're going to be done the job at that point in time. I'm going to be able to complete it at this point in time. So I've done the work and off it goes. Another thing to notice down below is there are some document fields down below here as well. There's a couple of uses for those. I like to showcase this to craftspeople, because one item that I get a lot of from a lot of clients is saying, has the work been done? And what some clients do is they take a picture of the work being completed and load it into a document field. So these 4 document fields allows you to load up to 4 files into the ticket itself. So one item that a lot of clients will do is maybe take a picture before they start the work showing the damage, and then a picture taken after the work to indicate that the job's been done. So those are quite common ones that we see. Or if you want the supervisor to load a reference manual or a set of instructions, again, you can load that in the document field. So those are very helpful, so don't forget about those in case you want to add them to your business process. So I've completed it at this point in time. I'm going to update this request, and once you update it, you'll notice it comes off the screen. So therefore, I'm only, as a craftsperson, only going to see tickets in which I've been assigned to. So therefore, my list will shrink based on the tickets that I need to do. Now, the tickets left here are just ones that I are not assigned to yet, but I could self-assign optionally. So if I didn't have those, it would be a blank screen and I wouldn't have any more tickets that I need to do. So that's really nice for a craftsperson because they just see the work in which they need to do, which is nice. So with that being said, we're going to sign out as the craftsperson, and now we're going to sign back in as the supervisor to see what that next step is going to be. So I'm going to sign out here, and we're going to simulate as if we're signing back in as Alfred Carlo, because Alfred needs to take a look at the tickets. This craftsperson indicated it was done, and based on the SLA in which I set up, it requires a verification step by Carlo. So we're going to log back in as Carlo and take a look at that. Alright, we're going to sign in as Carlo. So Carlo's going to go in, take a look at his Building Operations Console to see what's going on with his tickets. So he's the supervisor, as a reminder. So as we scroll down, we can start seeing our tickets. You'll notice as our door to my room is badly broken, so there's my ticket right there. And I can do a couple of things at this point in time. So what has happened at this point in time is the craftsperson has done the work, done the job, and it has completed it. You'll notice that it's moved it from the issue and process down into the completed section in the supervisor. Another item to notice is that the supervisor can always go and update that ticket as well. So they always have access to be able to do or update that based on the craftsperson information, or override that craftsperson's information in the issue and process stage. So therefore, the supervisor has those accesses inside their screen. But in this example, we had the actual craftsperson completing it, and that's why it comes down into the completed section. So you'll notice I've turned on an aspect inside of here, the verification process. So there's a red asterisk, and I can't close it until I've verified it. And the idea here is that the supervisor goes and takes a look at the craftsperson's work just to make sure the job's been done. Again, this could be the supervisor going on site, could be a phone call to the requester, so back to Linda, indicating, yeah, has your door been fixed and are you satisfied with it? And that's the verification step. It is an optional step, not a required step, but a lot of clients like it to see if the job's been complete by and appropriately before it actually gets closed out. So let's take a look at that. So I'm going to click on the verify button action, and what you can do is you can go and see whether the work's been done. So a couple things you can do. Two items: you can either confirm that yes, the work's been done, so Linda's happy with it, and we can actually confirm that it's been done, or Linda's not happy with it. The door's not sealing well, and therefore it has to go back to that craftsperson in order to fix that problem. So what you can do is you can hit return incomplete, which moves it back from the completed status into the issue and process status for that craftsperson to go and do. So you can go and reassign that craftsperson a second time, and so they can go off and be able to fix the issue if you want again. So you're not actually closing it, you're still trying to get the job or get the work done. So I've called Linda. Everything's good at this point in time. So Linda is happy with the work. Ticket can be closed. Okay, so again, just some information. Just keeps historical aspects. Again, you may say I called the client and therefore confirmed via a phone or something like that, or email or verbal, whatever it's going to be. So again, this just keeps history inside your ticket in case you ever have to go back to the ticket and know exactly what's gone on. So at this point in time, I'm just going to hit the confirm button and confirm it. Its job's been done, and then therefore has confirmed that process. Now, there is an optional to close if you want to. There's a couple of different characteristics in the Building Operations Console for closure. You can be able to turn on the close functionality by using the buttons inside of here, Or what you can have the software do is just be able to auto close it based on a period of time. So there's an auto close functionality based on time period in your parameters. So you can either turn that on or turn that off as part of that process. So again, mine is obviously turned on for this process, and I had some other examples where I had it turned off. So that allows you to be able to close it. If you do have the ticket you need to close, you can manually close it by clicking on the close, which then goes and archives the ticket at that point in time. So you've never lost a ticket. It's always in the software, and you go through essentially your workflow all the way through. So that kind of shows you your capabilities of your building operations console. There's a couple things that I wanted to showcase before we actually close out the video inside of here. And those are multiple selections is one of the items. So how do we do that? So if I know that I need to be able to do many actions on a couple of tickets at the same time. So here, for example, maybe I just want to issue these 3 tickets at the same time. I can use the checkmark functionality to checkmark them on. And then once I do that, I actually get some buttons across the top, which allows me to do that action on all those tickets. So if I want to be able to issue them, I come up, be able to hit that issue button, and what that will do is it'll go and be able to issue those 3 tickets. So I'm just going to click on yes, it's prompting me. And there we go. So there's those 3 tickets. It moves them down and they're now issued at that point in time. So again, it just facilitates the ability to be able to select multiple criteria at the same time and be able to use your action buttons on the same tickets at the same time. So that's a really nice feature, especially if you're trying to get through a lot of tickets very quickly and be able to update them. So multiple selection is available. As well, other aspects which are available to you are these 2 icons across the top. Well, one thing I get common questions about is being able to print tickets or being able to print my work requests to maybe a paper copy and then I'm passing along to a craftsperson. So what you've got available to you inside of here is this little pull down menu. It's actually an export pull down menu. And what that allows you to do is be able to export it to either an Excel format, a document or a Word document format, or a new PDF format. So ARCHIBUS has now added the PDF functionality inside of here, which is also available. So here you can see you've got export to Excel, which exports your entire list to Excel or out to Word, either one. Export it. You also have some other options, such as exporting it to the selected work requests with details and or with the floor plans. Floor plans are optional. That will only work if you have the space module inside the product or the space domain and be able to load your floor plans in from that space domain. So if you don't have floor plans from space domain, that's not going to work for you. This one's used quite frequently. I see a lot of usage of this one where you maybe want to be able to pick very particular work requests and be able to print them out and hand them to the craftsperson, so i.e. a paper-based process. You can use that functionality. Quite simply, you come up and be able to check out which tickets you want to be able to print, check mark them on, and then just quite simply come up and use the doc selected work request details or with floor plans, depending on which one. I'm going to use details just to showcase an example. As I click on that, what it will do is run the paginator report function for me. It's going off to the web server, grabbing those tickets, putting it into a Word document. Once it's done, here it's indicated it's done, it gives me a hyperlink, a Word file essentially. I can click on the Word file, either open it directly with Word or be able to save it. I'm going to open it at this point in time. And there we go. So I've essentially opened it into my Word software at this point in time. So I've downloaded it off the web server and opened it. As you can see, I get all my details inside of there. As I scroll down, I'll get a ticket, different ticket on each page, and the details associated to it. So I get a different page for every ticket that I've got that I put a check mark on. As I scroll down, as you can see, I've got all 3 tickets inside there. So if you're paper-based, that's the result that comes out of that print functionality. And then what I would do is I would print from this screen. So this is where I'd come up and go File, Print, and print it from Word. This is the recommended print solution for ARCHIBUS instead of trying to use the browser-based print functions. I'm just going to close this window. I don't need to save this doc file. I can also close this one down as well and come back to my screen. So So again, if you're going to use printing, I would recommend using these functionalities here for exporting it out to that different format and then printing from there. I would not recommend using the print functionality either from this icon or if your browser print functionality there, because you're just going to get essentially the iframe and that's it. So again, use that export pull down menu for printing purposes. The last item is the gear, little gear icon. That little gear icon allows you to be able to do a couple different characteristics inside the console. The first one is to be able to select your work request fields. And what that essentially will do is you've got a list of fields that you see inside your building operations console. So we can see we've got the work request code, we've got problem type, location, work description. Those are our fields of information from our corresponding ticket. Now, if I want to add more fields, maybe I want to add the requester's name or something like that. So who's the requester? I can come up here to the little gear, go to select work request fields, and what that allows me to do is be able to come up and be able to turn on any one of the available fields inside of here. It's essentially a select fields dialog box. So what I can do is if I want to say, for example, I want to know who's making the request, because I may react differently based on who's making it. So I can come up inside of here and look at the available fields and take any one of these fields inside of here and be able to move it over to a visible field. So again, be able to select your available fields, click the show button, which moves it over to the right hand side. So essentially it's going to fall right there on the end, right after due date. If I want to move it up in the list, just select the value, use the up down functionalities over here to move it up or down. The actions 1 through 5 are essentially the buttons that you see here. So if you want them before the buttons, you can move them up above. So again, I'm going to add it in right there in the middle, and I'm going to click on the update. And what that will do is allow to add that field inside of your console, and next time you log into the software, it'll remember that. So it's a user-based function, so therefore each user can set up their consoles with their fields that they like with quick information inside there on the console itself. So that's a nice little feature that allows you to be able to select what fields you want to see by using the select work request fields. Another one is the display 2 lines of work request description. If I check mark that on, it'll take my work description field here and make it out to 2 lines. Because as you can see right now, it'll actually cut off the value. You can see there's a dot 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 right there, which cuts off the field information. You can always get it by mousing over it, so therefore you can mouse over it and read it. But some clients just like to see more information, so you can check mark on the functionality of display 2 lines of work request description in that little gear, and that will expand it out so you can actually have 2 lines of information. You can always still mouse over it, but at least you get 2 lines of information inside there. So again, that's in the little gear. Check mark that on or off, and you can actually add and remove that function. Last one is highlighted any escalated requests. So if you are managing your own tickets, therefore you can see which ones have been escalated inside of here. Obviously I have quite a few that have been sitting in the hopper for quite some time and need to get need to react to them. I'm looking at some old data inside of here, so that's why so many of them are being highlighted. But as you can see, if they're highlighted in red, it means you're over that escalation time based on your SLAs. So therefore, you can see which ones you need to react to, i.e. you're late on them based on the communication which you've had back to the client. So you're going to want to make sure that you stay on top of those and react to those accordingly. So again, highlight them or not. I can turn them off now, and therefore we'll highlight those corresponding tickets accordingly. So that is essentially some of the functionality which is available to you in that building operations console. So as you can see, it's a very powerful little console which allows you to be able to take a look at all your tickets all at once, go through the workflow of your tickets right from the one screen. I'm not jumping from screen to screen to screen here, so you can see it's quite a powerful little tool. Alright, so I'm going to sign out as Carlo here. We're done with that corresponding process. And that concludes the workflow accordingly. So that's the availability of workflow and what you can do inside the building operations console. So it gives you a lot of options and capability. Again, as a reminder, you have to turn that building operations console on as a system administration functionality. You also have to make sure that your SLAs are set as well, so that's also a requirement. As well as the last but not least, there's two aspects in which you also want to look at before actually implementing the Building Operations Console. One is looking at your security groups and security concepts. You'll notice that there was a lot of add new buttons inside the screens, as well as some other functionality of being able to take a look at a lot of tickets. There are some built-in security groups inside the Building Operations Console which your system administrator can govern. So again, something you want to take a look at. And then last but not least is the application parameters. So ARCHIBUS has added a bunch of application parameters for that Building Operations Console, which changes a couple of the different criteria and different functionalities inside there. So in the examples that I showcased, I tried to turn as much as I could on so that you guys can take a look at that. And again, there's a lot of stuff in which you can turn off as part of that workflow. So take a look at your application parameters with your system admin and take a look. With that being said, that concludes this video. So thanks for watching this video on the Building Operations Console and its use. Watch for another video in the video series by Horizant, and thanks for listening. Take care. Bye for now.